Hey guys, how you doing? Today we're going to be looking at steering. Yeah, people know how to steer, you know how to steer, but there are things that people argue about on the internet, many things, the first of which is whether to shuffle or cross your arms when steering whilst driving. When it comes to the best way of steering, in my eyes, it totally depends on the situation you're in. You're not going to be shuffling the wheel on the track, and you're not going to be crossing your arms much in Tesco car park. So it's all about down to which situation you're in and what's more comfortable to you and safer for you to do whilst driving. Shuffling the wheel is taught in driving schools around the world and is considered by them, perhaps, the safest way of driving. They say it keeps your hands in contact with the wheel regularly and it keeps them kind of by the indicators. And I think the indicators are really the main reason that they do this too. It's sort of easy for people to understand that you keep your hands either side of the wheel. And I'd say it's actually best for like the general population of driving. So say not people who are interested in high performance driving, sports sort of stuff where you might get oversteer, understeer, that sort of thing. Not them. This is going to be for your grandmas, because your grandma isn't going to do racing driver arm cross sort of stuff. They're not going to be oversteering necessarily, so shuffling's fine for them if they're doing 30 mile an hour absolutely everywhere. For you and me maybe, who are looking into more high performance driving, you've got a sports car, you're looking to do track stuff, or you're just looking to have more control over your driving in general, then crossing your arms will be better. However, there are times when I switch between the two, and many people switch between the two, racing drivers, normal drivers, people who are just interested in driving quickly as well. So we'll talk about that. Shuffling the wheel is taught by driving schools around the world, as I mentioned, and is laughed at by petrolheads, gearheads, whatever you want to call them around the world, whilst crossing is taught at racing schools around the world, at racing tracks, and if you shuffle on a track, you're going to get laughed off the circuit. Shuffling the wheel. Shuffling, again, is something that's taught in driving schools around the world, and you need to do on your driving test. That's a plus point for shuffling the wheel. You're going to have to do it on your driving test. After that, it's up to you. Shuffling, it keeps your hands kind of at the 10 and 2, 9 and 2, 9 and 3. It keeps your hands kind of either side of the wheel at the same sort of angle. And this lets you get to indicators, washers, all that very, very easily. And I think that's one of the main reasons that they do it in driving schools. Say if you're on a roundabout, you need to get to an indicator. You can get to it like that, easy. When you've crossed your arms up, it's a little bit more difficult. Like that, say if you're sort of halfway round the rotation, it's a little bit hard to get to an indicator, so it can get a bit dodgy. So that's why when I'm on a roundabout doing like 20 miles an hour, you know, you're not going to skid. If you're skidding, you're doing something wrong at 20 miles an hour, or you need new tyres. Shuffling's good for low speed, low danger stuff. Like I mentioned, roundabouts, Sainsbury's car park, Tesco, any supermarket you fancy, Lidl. Shuffling is not good at high-speed control. It's just not. You're not going to know exactly where the steering is when you need it, and if you've got high-speed oversteer, it's quite precise corrections. So keep your hand on the wheel at all times, lets you sort of adjust very precisely and keep it on the track, keep it on the road, keep you out hedges, most importantly here. The lovely British weather is giving me some sunlight for 2 seconds. So, shuffling really is if you're being lazy. You're going slowly, you're not going to be oversteering, you're not going to be correcting anything. And if you want to get to your indicators, it's the only thing it's good for, really. So the pros and cons of crossing your arms. First pro, again, like we were saying, is the negative of shuffling. Crossing your arms has very good high-speed control. If you have to correct oversteer, you're already sort of aware of where the tyres are pointing, and you can get to a correction very quickly. You can be very precise and know exactly where your wheels are pointing. You might need a new pair of trousers, but you won't need a new car because you won't have put it in a tree. Well, it makes you feel like a racing driver. That's another plus. Racing driver, bro. Why the hell would I not want to feel like a racing driver? You know, I feel like Jenson Button. Not Jenson Button necessarily. He was good back in the day. You feel like you feel like a Matt Neal, you feel like a Gordon Shedden, bit of Lewis Hamilton coming into the Sainsbury's car park, 10 mile an hour. Contact with the wheel is actually higher when you cross your arms, because technically a hand never leaves the wheel. Sometimes when shuffling, it sort of, you do come off the wheel a bit, Some driving schools say shuffling has more contact than crossing, but I'd argue that, and I think a lot of performance drivers would argue that too. It also develops good habits if you ever do track driving too. If you're shuffling on the track, that's dodgy, and it's going to get you no favours, and it's just going to get you laughed at, and you're just going to naturally progress onto track driving if that's something you're interested in. Crossing realms does make it hard to get to things like indicators, any controls you need, wipers, things like that. You get the lights, you know, things you might need in certain situations. So consider that if you are just running around roundabouts slowly, or you're driving around with no need for high-speed control, oversteer control, that sort of thing. The main points that's a negative for it as well is you can't do it on your driving test, because they're going to see it as something against you because of indicators mainly. If you can't get the indicators on a test, then they're going to see that as dangerous because you're not being observant, you're not letting people around you know what you're doing. So for your test, you're going to have to stick to the grandma shuffle, I'm afraid. It's not going to look cool, but it'll pass you, and you can do what you fancy after that, and no one's really going to criticize you for it. So, in my eyes, you can chop and change the driving style however much you need, whenever you need it. So, if you're on roundabouts going 20 miles an hour, you can shuffle. If you're on car parks that don't require you to do any high speeds, then shuffling's fine. Crossing your arms, if you're driving at any point that you think you might need to correct the car, or make fine adjustments. It's much easier to make fine adjustments with crossing because you've always got that reference to where the wheels are pointing. If you're shuffling, then you've sort of shifted your hands and therefore shifted your perception of where the wheels are very, very slightly. Even if it's like, you know, a couple millimeters out every time, it still makes a difference, so keep that in mind. So whether you're going around Sainsbury's car park or taking Brands Hatch, Paddock Hill Bend, full chat, it's up to you to decide which, but you know now which ones suit better for which situations and can kind of mediate between those. You see racing drivers sometimes, you know, crossing their arms the whole day, coming in and going around Brands Hatch, and then coming to the pits and they just shuffle around the place because it's lazy and low effort. That's fine. You know, no one's gonna laugh at you for that. Or if you're kind of maneuvering into a parking space, it's fine to shuffle. It's fine to cross your arms. Whatever's more comfortable with you, practice in a safe space, private land, preferably. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video today. I hope you've enjoyed it and got something out of it. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see in future videos, and make sure to like and subscribe and all that beautiful stuff. Thank you for watching, drive safe, and I'll see you in the next one.